Roller coasters are made for two things: fun and
striking fear of impending death into the rider.
Most people get scared on roller coasters, so naturally, a lot of people wonder what the scariest roller coaster is. But if you look that up on YouTube, this is the bullcrap you get.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another crazy video about Roller Coaster Dangerous Top 10. Number 1. Gravity Max at Six Flags. This ride is dangerous. Hurry, like and subscribe in the next 5 seconds so this spider...
So instead of doing that misinformation clickbait, I'm going to go over what the scariest roller coaster in the world is, while trying to use statistics and common sense and reasoning, unlike this thing. So hopefully by the end of the video, we'll come to a solid conclusion of what the scariest roller coaster in the world is. So to start out, I made a poll asking what part of a coaster you guys get the most nervous for. The top 3 were launches, lift hills, and the drop. After I made this poll, I started to wonder about vertical lift hills. So next, I made a poll asking which is scarier, a vertical lift hill or a launch. Vertical lift hill won by a pretty big margin. But let me just say, be sure to take this information in your mind, but take it with a grain of salt. This doesn't mean all vertical lift hills are scarier than all launches. I'm sure any vertical lift hill is scarier than a mock launch, and I'm sure Dododampa's launch is scarier than most vertical lift hills. So again, while this can be useful, we can't use this as our main source of evidence. But there are a couple aspects of a coaster that make a ride scary. The first one is anticipation. Anticipation is important because you need time to second guess yourself and rethink your life. That's the reason rolling launches are way less scary than a launch that brings you to a full stop. Also, this is probably the reason lift hill was one of the things people were most scared of in the poll. During lift hills, you're slowly rising and waiting
for your impending doom.
Another aspect of a coaster that makes it scary is intimidation. A ride that lets you get a good look at it before you ride it really adds to the fear factor. And the taller the coaster, the scarier it looks. Think of something like Top Thrill Dragster or Fury 325. You're really getting dang close to that track, and it lets you get a good view of that thing flying past you. And for Top Thrill's case, the launch is really loud! And loud launches always make me a little bit nervous. So it's pretty clear that intimidation is important. And the final important fear aspect of a coaster is uncomfortableness. Bit of a weird category, but let me explain. Having little restraint makes people who are easily scared, like me, pretty uncomfortable because you just don't feel safe. I remember my first time on Millennium Force, they pulled down my lap bar, and since I was scared, I asked them to make it a little bit tighter. They said that was as tight as they could make it. I remember just sitting there like, that's it? Another aspect of uncomfortability, what a fun word, is something like a vertical lift. Steep lift hills just feel uncomfortable. They just make me more queasy for a ride and give me butterflies in my stomach. I'm also going to include height in a coaster because I think most of us get a bit uncomfortable hundreds of feet in the air. So to recap, the 3 important aspects are anticipation, intimidation, and uncomfortability. So now that we've gone over what makes a coaster scary, let's go over some potential rides. First off, we have dive coasters. If you want to get specific, Yukon Striker at Canada's Wonderland. These dive machines are masters of intimidation. Staring right up at people hanging over the edge of a 200+ foot drop really gets you nervous before a ride starts. They also have amazing anticipation. Steep lift hills, a holding brake, all that jazz. But if you've ridden any of these dive coasters, I think you can agree they're just not that scary to ride. In most dive machines, you're insanely secure, so it just doesn't feel like you'll fall out or anything. And I know all of the dive machines don't have vest restraints, but they just don't have enough uncomfortability to make them some of the scariest rides in the world. I do think other coasters that feature a holding brake are much scarier than the dive machine. But the dive machine is really good at anticipation and intimidation. Another coaster is TMNT Shellraiser. I know people don't really respect this ride too much in the community, but this ride is a real contestant. It does have a rolling launch, which I've just heard is alright, but it's still a launch. It also has some insane anticipation. Before you go up the vertical lift, you just sit there and get a good look at it. And once you're at the top, you just stare straight down at one of the steepest drops in the world for a good while. So this ride has an alright launch, a vertical lift hill, and a steep drop. So it's the scariest in the world, right? Not exactly. This ride isn't too intimidating. It's still pretty intimidating, just not as much as other rides on this list. Also, it's not that tall. Height is one of the biggest fears for most people. And also, this ride does have some pretty big over-the-shoulder restraints that just seem like they make you feel pretty secure. So, though on paper this ride might seem like the scariest, I honestly just don't think it is. Next, we're going to talk about Fury 325. To get straight to the point, I don't think this is the scariest coaster in the world. It's honestly up there though. But the main flaw is it just doesn't have that one main thing. It has a tall lift hill, but it goes up fast and it's just like any other lift hill, except really tall. The drop is cool, but it doesn't go straight down or anything, it's just an extra long drop. Some people could even say it's the best drop on a coaster ever, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's scariest. What I'm getting at is Fury just needs something to stand out more. It could be a great ride, but I honestly just don't think it's the scariest in the world. The next coaster on the list is Top Thrill Dragster. Top Thrill is a really good contestant for the scariest coaster in the world. And while it's not as tall as King Ka, it has much more minimal restraints, which makes the ride much scarier. This ride also might be the most intimidating coaster in the world. Just look at this thing! Along with intimidation, this ride also has some of the most anticipation in the world. I speak from experience when I say sitting on that launch track, staring down the second tallest coaster in the world is petrifying. So Top Thrill Dragster has the uncomfortability. That's such a weird word. Because of its insane height and also its minuscule lap bars. And it has insanely good anticipation because you sit there waiting on that launch track for one of the fastest, most intense launches in the world. And it has amazing intimidation because you get to stare down that launch, and the line is literally in the middle of the ride. And I do believe that all of these factors combined make Top Thrill Dragster the scariest roller coaster in the world. Anyways, that's just about it for this video. If you like these new kind of videos, let me know. And also, let me know about your scariest roller coaster experience in the comments. And also, let me know if you disagree or agree with my pick for the scariest coaster. But anyways, thanks for watching my video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.